shut your mouth. I'ma shut it for you, punk. Hit ya with the punk tactics. 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 Hit ya with the hard punk tactics. Bank rolls come straight for the assets. No games, no throw or pass it. Pick you up, spit you out like Jurassic. Oh, no for the rigmarole, we kick pros. Stub toes, I suppose you might know. Hit the block, then you flock. Time's up, now you're about to get clocked. Aye. Spicy like pepper, 1-2-stepper. Laid back, motivated, money go getter. Never felt better, write me love letters. Shooting out the spike chain, Megadeth tether. Get over here like Scorpion. Punch on the sleeve, called Vulcan. Should I assist you, or do you get the picture? If you don't budge, I'm gonna have to hit you. Hit ya with the punk tactics. 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 Yo, the lace is loose and fist tight. I never lose a fist fight. Sun up and up all night. If I'm gonna do it, then I'm gonna do it right. B to the R to the A to the E. F what you think, I'ma stay G. H is for hot, cause that's what I be. IJK, I'm cold like Slurpee. Ooh, goddamn, I drop bombs. I was born with the brains and the brawn. I am the king, and you're just a pawn. Who's got the high ground now, Obi-Wan? Alphabet rhymes like chicken noodle soup. Two-door beamer, pick you up in the coop. Shooting for the hoop, jiggy on the loose. Shark mentality like my name Bruce. Hit you with the punk tactics. 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 Hit you with the
of Scars. ACT1. Short Change Heroes. Chapter 1. Shared Trauma. Anime Protagonist. Location. Era 2. The Quantum Nexus. Kyoto, Japan. POV. Sage, the Echo of Aegis. The Vlafid, the Obsidian Blade. The narrator of Noteworthy Nonsense, Sage. The introduction. A faint, lavender shimmer distorts the air, swirling like milk and tea before sharpening into a presence. You cannot see me, darling, but you can feel me. I am the chill on your neck before the blade drops. I am the silence between the heartbeats. Allow me to introduce myself properly before the blood starts splattering on the lens. I am Sage, also known as the Echo of Aegis. I am not here to save anyone. Heavens no, that sounds exhausting. I am here to observe. I am the voyeur of the multiverse, the narrator of this grand, chaotic, and frankly often messy little play you call a saga. My purpose is simple. To ensure you don't miss the subtext while you're distracted by the explosions. Tonight's performance features a tragic clown wrapped in a trench coat. He thinks he is a hero. He thinks he is a monster. In reality, he is just loud. Let the show begin. The scene, a busted Yakuza warehouse. The air in Kyoto Sector 4 tasted of wet ozone, stale cigarette smoke, and the distinct metallic tang of bad decisions. The warehouse below was a dimly lit stage set for a tragedy, populated by 6 Yakuza extras, who had no idea their contracts were about to expire. Rain lashed against the corrugated roof, providing a moody, percussive rhythm that any decent sound engineer would appreciate. Then, the window didn't just break. It performed a dramatic exit. Action. The drop. Glass shards hung in the air for a fraction of a second. A stasis pause for effect, catching the violent strobing blue light of the Hikari flash. It was, I must admit, a visually striking entrance. A figure crashed through the pane, wrapped in a tattered cloak and an anime poncho that had seen better days. He hit the floor with a bone-shaking impact that cracked the concrete. A lesser performer would have rolled. The Obsidian Blade simply landed, a kinetic anchor dropping into the sea of chaos. "All right, you mooks," the Obsidian Blade roared, his voice amplified by the cracked fanged mask covering his lower face. He stood up, shaking off glass like dandruff. "We're live. Who ordered the catastrophic failure with a side of ass-kicking?" The Yakuza nearest to him, a man with a truly regrettable spider tattoo on his neck, fumbled for his weapon. It was a sluggish, pathetic movement. The blade, currently vibrating with the manic energy of the Hikari, light aspect, moved with a speed that blurred the edges of reality, a technique he doubtlessly refers to internally as Sakuga-level animation. Snap. The Obsidian Blade's boot connected with the man's jaw. The sound was wet, like a branch snapping in a swamp. The poor extra folded instantly. Jeremiah Crumpler, for that is the man beneath the mask, drew his katana, the Oathkeeper. The steel sang a high, hungry note as it left the sheath, a wah-thang that echoed in the cavernous space. He spun the blade, a flourish entirely unnecessary for combat but essential for his ego. Yo! Did you see that framing? Obsidian Blade shouted at no one in particular, his eyes, one glowing blue, the other a dormant red, scanning the room. That was frame. Perfect. Where's my budget? I'm working with indie-level lighting here. The manic shift. The lieutenant, a man built like a refrigerator in a cheap suit, decided to charge. He swung a lead pipe with all the grace of a drunk toddler. I watched as the energy around Jeremiah shifted. The manic, strobing blue of the Hikari flickered, bleeding into the jagged, violet-black shadow of the Yami current. This is the duality of the man, a pendulum swinging between righteous hyperactivity and crushing, shadow-drenched despair. Boring! Obsidian Blade cackled, ducking under the pipe swing. He slapped the flat of his machete against the lieutenant's knee. Your pacing is trash. Give me conflict. Give me texture. He didn't just dodge, he danced. He treated the lethal combat like a mosh pit, where he was the only one who knew the song. He coated his blade in the Yami shadow, a substance that eats light and hope. He sliced the pipe. The metal didn't clang. It screamed as the Yami vaporized it. The lieutenant stumbled back, holding two useless stumps of steel, his face a mask of confusion. Fury is a bad metric, my guy, Obsidian Blade lectured, kicking the man into a stack of crates. He hopped onto a shipping container, striking a pose against the rain-slicked skylight, his coat billowing in a non-existent wind. You gotta flow with the beat. This is jazz, and you're playing. I don't know, Polka? The observer's critique. Oh, look at him, I mused, swirling my metaphorical tea. He poses on the high ground while his enemies regroup. It is the classic blunder of the protagonist who loves the sound of his own voice more than the silence of victory. He is dangerously unstable, his soul a cocktail of trauma and adrenaline. Obsidian Blade looked up at the rafters, his cracked mask catching the light. Hey, Sage. You getting this? Tell me the lighting is good. Tell me I look like a cover art. I did not answer. The narrator does not speak to the puppet, but I did notice the shadows in the rafters deepening, coalescing into a silhouette with burning crimson eyes. Shadow Fang had arrived, and unlike our rock star, she did not care for applause. Noise level exceeded threshold. A voice whispered from the dark, sharp as a scalpel. Obsidian Blade grinned, the mania in his eyes flaring brighter. Finally, the bass drop. Let's remix this disaster. Saga of Scars. ACT1. Short Change Heroes. Chapter 2. Old School. The Brooklyn Anchor. Location: Red Hook Industrial District, Brooklyn, New York. POV: Sage, the echo of Aegis. Delape Kwame, Kwame Daisuke Okoro. Sage, the introduction. Oh, look at this. We have traded the neon-drenched hysteria of Kyoto for the wet, rusted depression of Brooklyn. Lovely texture if you enjoy tetanus. Here stands a man who is entirely the wrong shape for this century. Kwame Daisuke Okoro, whom the locals call Samson, stands in the shadow of a rotting shipping container, like a monolith dropped from a better, sterner time. He is not vibing. He is mourning. He looks at the Red Hook skyline, a jagged mouth of broken industrial teeth, and sees only a ghost. He is a samurai trapped in a music video, a king in a cage of concrete. The scene, the weight of displacement. The air in Red Hook tasted of burnt copper and ancient, unyielding grime. To Kwame, it was a flavor of disrespect. The ground was slick with old tide. He adjusted the straps of his tactical vest. The ceramic plates pressed against his ribs, a necessary suffocating weight. In the Akan Federation of the 19th century, a warrior's weight came from his soul, from the Abusua lineage he protected. Here, in 2025, protection was just heavy plastic and Kevlar. This place is a hollow shell, Kwame thought, his internal voice a deep resonance. There is no spirit in this stone. The people here fight for scraps, not for the sanctity of the circle. They are adrift. Beside him, Florence popped a bubble of gum. Pop. The sound was sharp, irreverent, and annoying. Yo, Samson, she hissed, tapping the glowing purple dials on her gauntlet. My audio pickup is catching elevated heart rates. These bridge rats are high-key jumpy, giving amateur hour vibes. Kwame did not turn his head. He stared into the fog, his eyes tracking the unseen movement. Florence, I worry, he rumbled, his voice deep and measured, laced with the worry of displacement. These bridge rats, they lack the honor of a true foe. Their chaos is noise, not calculated action. We must value the still water over the crashing wave. Low ain't my style, Chief, but focus is key, she smirked, the violet light of her rig reflecting in her eyes. Then let us proceed with discipline, Kwame commanded, moving forward with the quiet force of a massive pillar. A warrior's worth is the protection he offers. Action. The professional. Two figures emerged from the gloom, scavengers in torn hoodies, wielding pipes and jagged metal. They moved with the frantic, twitchy energy of the desperate. Sage note. Watch the contrast, darling. The Obsidian Blade would have done a backflip. Kwame Daisuke Okoro, simply, arrives. The first hostile charged, swinging a lead pipe at Kwame's head. Kwame did not flinch. He did not dance. He utilized the samurai tactical zone. He identified the strike as kinetic, physical matter, and therefore unworthy of his Mandingo flow absorption. But he also identified the attacker's spirit as weak, lacking the essence to harm him. He took the hit. Clang. The pipe slammed into his armored shoulder plate. Kwame stood rooted, his feet cracking the asphalt beneath him. He did not sway. The vibration traveled through his core, dampened instantly by his discipline. The hostile froze, eyes widening. He had hit a mountain. Your anger has no root, Kwame stated, his tone flat and judgmental. With a movement that felt impossibly slow yet landed with devastating finality, Kwame delivered a Caesar boot strike. He didn't snap the kick, he drove it. His boot connected with the man's knee. Crunch. The leg buckled like wet cardboard. The fight was over before the echo of the pipe faded. The aftermath no honor. The second hostile scrambled back, dropping his weapon, terrified by the sheer lack of reaction from the giant. Run, Kwame said. It was not a threat, it was an instruction. The rat ran. Florence stepped up, her rig humming. Clean. Efficient. Boring, but clean. We tracking the runner? Kwame looked at his hands. He missed the feel of the Acrofena, the sword of his ancestors. This brutality, it felt empty. We will follow, Kwame said, staring at the grime on his armor. He leads us to the source. But know this, Florence. There is no glory in breaking brittle things. This timeline, it has forgotten how to stand. Saga of Scars. ACT1. Short Change Heroes. Chapter 2. B-Side. The Sonic Squeeze. Location. Red Hook Waterfront, Brooklyn, New York POV. Sage. The Echo of Aegis. Delata Florence. Lyricanon. Delata Kwame. Samson. Sage. The Transition. There is an art to asking questions. Some use pliers. Some use persuasion. Florence uses a subwoofer aimed directly at the inner ear. We catch up with our runner, the bridge rat who fled the initial engagement. He has made the classic mistake of running into a dead end. Now he is trapped between a girl who is literally vibrating with excitement and a man who looks like a disappointed mountain. Let's see if he breaks before his eardrums do. Scene 1. Kinetic versus flow, the correction. The runner, a wiry man with rat tattooed on his knuckles, was backed against a rusted dumpster. Panic made him stupid. He fumbled for a snub-nosed revolver in his waistband. Back off! I'll air you out, he screamed, the gun shaking in his hand. Kwame stood 10 feet away. He did not activate his flow. He did not glow. He simply shifted his stance, his boots finding traction on the slick, oil-stained concrete. Kinetic is physical, Kwame reminded himself. The Mandingo flow anchors the spirit, not the flesh. I am not bulletproof, the rat fired. Bang. Kwame moved. It was not a magical absorption, it was pure Bushido discipline. He pivoted his hips, a precise Tai Sabaki body movement, letting the bullet hiss harmlessly past his ribs to bury itself in the brick wall behind him. Your aim is governed by fear, Kwame stated, closing the distance in 2 massive strides. The rat fired again, but Kwame slapped the gun barrel aside with an armored gauntlet and grabbed the man's wrist. Crack! The gun clattered to the wet ground. Kwame pinned the man against the dumpster, his forearm pressing against the rat's throat. I am not a ghost you can shoot, Kwame rumbled. I am the consequence of your actions. Be still. Scene 2. The Sonic Squeeze. Florence stepped up, her sonic rig humming with a low, menacing purple light. She adjusted a dial on her gauntlet. Yo, Chief. He's giving flight risk. Want me to rattle his cage? Florence asked, popping her gum. Apply pressure, Kwame commanded. But leave the mind intact. We require the truth. Florence pointed her palm at the rat. She didn't blast him. She hit a specific resonant frequency. The air around the rat's head distorted. He screamed, clutching his ears. It wasn't pain. It was acoustic anxiety, a vibration that mimicked the biological frequency of pure terror. Okay, Stop the noise. My head! The rat shrieked. Then talk, Florence said, lowering the gain. What are you scraping off the docks? We saw the glow sticks. That ain't standard issue contraband. Scene 3. The reveal. Ghost gunk. The rat slid down the dumpster, weeping. It's just the residue. The ghost gunk. We don't cook it. We just scrape it. Kwame frowned. Explain. What is this gunk? The pylons. The rat blubbered. The old shipping pylons, they leak this amber slime. It gets you high. Like God mode high, but it burns you out fast. Florence tapped her chin. Raw residue. That means you're just bottom feeders. Who buys the raw product? Who refines it? The rat hesitated, then reached into his jacket, not for a gun, but for a vial of glowing green liquid. I ain't snitching on the source, he yelled, cracking the vial. Scene IV. The absorption. A burst of raw catalyst erupted. A volatile wave of green fire meant to incinerate the alley. This is energy, Kwame realized. This is flow. He didn't dodge. He stepped into the blast. Anchor protocol, he whispered. He opened his arms, and the Mandingo flow activated, an invisible spiritual gravity well in his chest. The green fire didn't burn him. It swirled into him. He inhaled the violence, his eyes glowing faintly as he grounded the energy, converting the destructive force into harmless steam venting from his armor plates. The rat stared, jaw-dropping. You ate it, he whispered. The source, Kwame repeated, his voice heavy with absorbed toxicity. Name it. The shipments go west. The rat gasped. San Francisco. It all goes to the spire. That's where the alchemist lives. He buys it all back as soulfire. Florence grinned, typing the intel into her gauntlet. San Fran. The alchemist. Bet. Kwame released the man, who slumped into the mud unconscious. He mines the decay of the city to poison the people, Kwame said, looking at his hands. This is not a crime ring, Florence. This is a harvest. Then let's go shut down the farm, Florence said. Sage. Closing. And there we have it. A bullet dodged, a fireball eaten, and a destination set. San Francisco awaits. I do hope they pack warm coats. The fog is dreadful this time of year. Saga of Scars. ACT-1. Short Change Heroes. Chapter 3. The Gilded Cage. Location. Safehouse Kintsugi right. Pointing arrow. The Gilded Lotus. Tokyo Bay. POV. Sage. The Echo of Aegis. Slot Shadowfang Helena. Sage. The Introduction. Welcome to the morning after the end of the world. Or at least, the morning after a very loud warehouse party. We find our heroes in Kintsugi, a safe house that smells aggressively of bleach and repressed trauma. It is a quiet room, but don't let that fool you. The silence here is heavy enough to crush a small sedan. On one side we have the Obsidian Blade, currently in his crash phase. He sits like a statue carved from depression, his manic light extinguished, absorbing the room's bad vibes like a metaphysical sponge. And pacing the floor is Shadowfang. She is vibrating, not with fear, darling, but with hunger. There is a demon stitched to her soul, scratching at the back of her eyes, begging to be let out to play. She is the leash, and the leash is fraying. Scene I. The quiet room. The air pressure in the safe house felt heavy, insulating the space against the noise of the surrounding city block. It was a sterile, freezing contrast to the raw humidity of the battle they had just survived. Helena stood by the reinforced window, staring at the gray skyline. Her reflection was not her own. For a flickering second, the eyes in the glass burned crimson. Quiet, she commanded internally. The beast demands blood. I offer it discipline. She turned to Jeremiah. He sat on a crate, cleaning his machete with a slow, hypnotic rhythm. S-H-H-H-K, S-H-H-H-K, S-H-H-H-K. The Yami, darkness, was actively consuming the ambient psychic residue of the previous fight, leaving him hollow. The data matches, Helena said. Her voice was a low rasp, cutting the silence like a serrated edge. The chemical signature. Synthetic. Outsourced. Jeremiah didn't look up. A substance manufactured, he rumbled, his voice gravel grinding on broken glass. Not grown. A breach of natural law. Helena began to pace again. The Oni inside her was an itch under her hairline, a physical pressure demanding movement. The lieutenant spoke before he died, she stated, listing the facts to ground herself. The alchemist. The Gilded Lotus. Tokyo Bay. She stopped and looked at the map on the wall. The target was clear. We cut the route, she said, her eyes narrowing. Tonight, I take point. You are compromised. Jeremiah stopped cleaning. He looked up, his eyes hollow craters. He nodded once. The dampener follows the executioner. Scene 2. The Gilded Lotus. Sage note. And now, a change of scenery. From the depressing box to a floating palace of sin. The Gilded Lotus. A yacht where the champagne costs more than your soul. The air on the yacht's hull tasted of diesel and freezing salt. Helena clung to the anchor chain, a shadow against the steel. She was in full Oni mode, but she held the dial firmly at 25% saturation. Any more, and the stealth would break, the demon would scream. She vaulted over the railing, landing silently on the teak deck. Action, the executioner. A guard patrolled the starboard walkway, smoking a cigarette that smelled of clove and boredom. Helena didn't run. She glided. She moved with the velocity bias, gliding/overwatch. Her footsteps making no sound on the wet surface. Target acquired. Pulse, slow. Awareness, 0. She unspooled the chain of her kama. Snick. The blade hooked the guard's ankle. She yanked. He fell, mouth opening to shout, but she was already there. She clamped a hand over his mouth, the Oni flow surging into her grip, turning her fingers into iron vices. Sleep, she whispered. She pressed a pressure point and the guard went limp. She dragged him into the shadows, vanishing him, absorbed by the dark. She tapped her comms. Kitchen's clear. Service stairwell secure, she signaled, her voice devoid of inflection. Blade, position? I am the void in the hallway, came the rumble in her ear. The shadows bend to me. Hold, she commanded. I see the distributor, Nova. He is on stage. She looked down from the mezzanine. Katsuro Nova Hoshino was glowing like a failed science experiment, surrounded by the sickly sweet scent of soulfire. The anger flared in her chest, hot, red, and violent. The Oni wanted to jump. It wanted to tear. Control, she hissed to herself. I am not the storm. I am the scalpel, she signaled the breach. On my mark. Quiet is over. Sage, closing. Oh, the restraint. Do you feel it? The tension is so tight you could pluck it like a cello string. She wants to massacre them, but she settles for tactical neutralization. For now. Of Scars. ACT1. Short Change Heroes. Chapter 4. Dismantling the Disco. The Boss Fight. Location. The Gilded Lotus. Tokyo Bay. Main dance floor. POV. Sage. The Echo of Aegis. The Obsidian Blade. Shadowfang. Sage. The Introduction. And now, we arrive at the main event. Every tragedy needs a villain with too much money and zero taste. Meet Katsuro Nova Hoshino. He calls himself a distributor. I call him a glorified glow stick. He stands on the DJ booth of the Gilded Lotus, a cathedral of neon and bad techno, pumping soulfire into the air vents like it's cheap cologne. He believes he is a god of light. Whatever shall we do? Oh, right. We shall smash his toys. Action beat 1, the drop. The service doors blew open with a deafening crang of stressed metal. The music didn't stop. It just got a new rhythm section. Nova stood center stage, his skin cracking with amber energy, glowing like a radioactive idol. Shadowfang didn't wait for a monologue. She launched from the mezzanine balcony, a silent projectile wrapped in ninja armor and bad intentions. Sage critique. Note the form, darlings. No wasted movement. She is gravity with a grudge. Action. Executioner's Arc Helena spun in mid-air. Snick, snick. Her twin kamas flashed, silver crescents cutting through the strobe lights. She didn't aim for the boss yet. She aimed for the support. She severed the hamstrings of the 3 bodyguards flanking the stage in a single, fluid rotation. They collapsed. The music stuttered. Action beat 2, Paradox Smoothie. Protocol breach. A voice roared from the doorway, loud enough to wake the dead and annoy the living. The Obsidian Blade vaulted over the bar, his trench coat flapping like a majestic, dirty cape. He was glowing. The Hikari, light, flowed off him in jagged waves, turning his eyes into twin spotlights. Hey, glowworm! Obsidian Blade shouted, pointing his katana at Nova. Your lighting designer should be fired. Too much lens flare. I'm here to fix the contrast. He didn't attack with a sword strike. He threw a Hikari spike, a magnesium flare, straight into the DJ booth. Crack boom. A blinding white supernova washed out Nova's carefully curated neon ambiance. Paradox Smoothie. Obsidian Blade laughed, the mania bleeding into his voice. It confuses the core. It disrupts your perfect structure. Drink up. Action beat 3. The light show. Nova shrieked, shielding his eyes. The disruption of his aesthetic hurt him more than a physical blow. Do not dim my wavelength? Nova screamed, his voice distorted by the soul fire coursing through his throat. I am the spectacle. He slammed his hands onto the console. The neon lights of the dance floor condensed into physical shapes. Hard light mines. Sage critique, hard light? How derivative. But effective. The mines shot forward, tracking Obsidian Blade like heat-seeking missiles. Suppress! Helena shouted from the shadows, already moving to flank. Obsidian Blade didn't dodge. He switched modes. The blue Hikari vanished, replaced instantly by the crushing violet gravity of the Yami, darkness. I eat this track for breakfast. He swung his machete. The violet aura acted like acid, eating through the hard light mine upon contact. The explosion was swallowed by the void of his blade. He was the absorber now. Photons? Tacky! Obsidian Blade yelled, charging through the smoke. I love the lack of essence. This is all surface level. Action beat 4. Structural failure. Nova panicked. He began drawing directly from the ship's power grid, his body swelling with volatile energy. I will burn you out. I am the sun. Helena, unnoticed in the chaos, had reached her true objective. She wasn't fighting the man, she was fighting the room. Target, junction box. Status, exposed. Blade. Distract, she commanded over the comms. Way ahead of you, Spooky, Obsidian Blade taunted, parrying a blast of neon energy. Helena jammed her comma into the box labeled Main Stage Power. ZZZRAK. The ship plunged into absolute, echoing darkness. Nova's hard-light weapons vanished instantly. The music died. Action beat 5, the punchline. In the sudden dark, Nova was blind. But the Obsidian Blade? The dark is his old friend. A red road flare sputtered to life, illuminating Obsidian Blade's cracked, grinning mask. Don't worry, Obsidian Blade whispered, stepping close to the trembling distributor. The dark is friendly. Once you accept the silence. He didn't use the sword. He didn't use the twin demon flow. He just used a fist. Thwack. A single, Yami-infused haymaker connected with Nova's jaw. The force was a pure kinetic dump, knocking the soul fire, and the consciousness, right out of him. Nova crumpled. Obsidian Blade shook his hand, the mania fading as the adrenaline crashed. San Francisco, he rasped, looking down at the defeated boss. We have a vessel to acquire. The bridge is burned. Sage. Closing. End scene. The lights are off. The villain is unconscious, and the hero has a bruised knuckle. No demonic fusion required, just good old-fashioned vandalism and violence. Bravo. Saga of Scars. ACT1. Short Change Heroes. Chapter 5. The B-Side Remix. Location, Safe House the B-Side, Red Hook Waterfront, Brooklyn. POV, Sage, The Echo of Aegis. Florence, Canon. Sage, The Introduction. Welcome to the B-Side. In the vinyl era, this was where the experimental tracks lived, the weird, the raw, the unpolished. Fitting, isn't it? We are in a Red Hook warehouse that smells of soldering flux, stale ozone, and the desperation of the early 2000s. Florence Baxter is currently performing open-heart surgery on a stolen hard drive. She calls it remixing. I call it voiding the warranty. Standing guard is Kwame Daisuke Okoro, a man who looks at a server rack the same way a lion looks at an algebra equation, with deep, majestic confusion and a suspicion that it is morally wrong. Scene, the digital autopsy. Florence dumped the looted drives onto a workbench, groaning under the weight of scavenged tech. She cracked her knuckles, the purple LEDs on her gauntlets pulsing in time with her heartbeat. Yo, Samson, she called out, her fingers flying across her mechanical keyboard. Clack, clack, clack. Hook up the feed. I'm about to drop the needle on this digital carcass. Let's see what rats was really spinning. Kwame Daisuke Okoro moved from the shadows, a pillar of gravitas. The city is agitated, he rumbled. The fire at the flophouse has drawn the moths. Patrols are tightening the perimeter. Let 'em flutter, Florence muttered, popping her gum. I hit a firewall. Cute. It's giving, quote, quote, baby's first encryption. Watch this. She didn't type a password. She slammed a fiber optic cable from her gauntlet directly into the drive's port. Her sonic rig whined, a low, grinding chord of data current. She wasn't hacking the code. She was vibrating the silicon lattice until it surrendered. HUMMM click. We're in, she grinned. And oh, it is high-key ugly. Prepare for maximum T-spillage. Dialogue, the alchemist and soulfire mechanics. Screens flickered to life, projecting rotating 3D schematics of a molecular structure that looked like shattered glass suspended in amber fluid. Talk to me, Kwame Daisuke Okoro commanded, leaning in. Provide the essence of the data. Florence's eyes darted across the spectral analyzer. Okay, so boom, Florence started, pointing at the amber graphic. You see this signature? The rats wasn't just selling a combat drug. Soulfire isn't chemical. It's metaphysical. She expanded the view, showing a simulation of the human nervous system disintegrating. This alchemist guy? He's refining trauma current. It targets the core axiom of the user, their deepest emotional wound. It forces the wound open, like ripping a scab off a soul. Kwame's face hardened into profound disgust. He mines the spirit? He harvests the pain? Worse, Florence said. He weaponizes the burnout. That's the user's own soul being forcefully converted into kinetic energy. It's a rapid onset entropy engine. You drink the vial, and for 10 minutes you're a god, because you're literally burning your own future to fuel the present. It is a violation of the core, Kwame whispered. He turns the demon current into fuel for chaos. This alchemist is a parasite of the highest order. The destination, the needle. Florence tapped a key, bringing up a blurred image of a figure in a plague doctor mask, the alchemist. And here's the kicker, she said, highlighting the location data. The refinery, the place where he actually cooks the spirits, is in San Francisco. The spire. He calls it the needle. He builds a tower to process the decay, Kwame said, his hand drifting to the hilt of his katana, the soul cutter. If the poison flows from the west, then we must sever the head of the snake. Florence grabbed a chrome sphere from her bench, a base drop grenade. Then we're going mobile, she said. Pack your bags, big man. We're taking this remix on tour. Next stop, the Bay Area. Sage, closing. And so, the mystery is solved. The drug is not a drug. It is a liquidation sale of the human soul. How utterly efficient. How utterly corporate. Saga of Scars. ACT1. Chapter 6. The Fog of War. Location, Pier 33. San Francisco Dockyards POV. Sage, the Echo of Aegis, /ensemble. Sage, the introduction. San Francisco. The city of fog, bridges, and, apparently, men with very large swords having very loud arguments. We find ourselves at Pier 33. The air here tastes of wet iron and bad omens. The fog is not natural. It is a heavy, suffocating curtain that hides the sins of the alchemist. But the real storm isn't the weather. It's the collision of two fundamental forces, the anchor and the storm. One wants to hold the world still. The other wants to spin it until it breaks. Scene 1. The duel. Chaos versus order. The Obsidian Blade sat on the edge of a shipping container, 50 feet in the air, dangling his legs over the abyss, eating a convenience store rice ball with offensive casualness. And that's our cue, Obsidian Blade whispered to the fog. Enter the stoic buzzkill. Thud. Kwame Daisuke Okoro landed on the container. He didn't roll. He didn't wobble. He simply became part of the steel. He stood like a monolith, his tattered GI flapping in the wind, judging the universe for its lack of discipline. You defile this place with your levity, Kwame rumbled, his voice a deep, flat resonance. You are a disease of the spirit. Remove yourself or be removed. Obsidian Blade swallowed the rice ball. Ooh, tense! Nice sword, Grandpa. Did you check the expiration date on that righteousness? He stood up, the Hikari, light, flaring in his left eye, turning him into a living strobe light. I ain't cured. You don't cure a storm, you learn to surf it. Make me, Kwame said. He reached for his katana, the soul cutter. Sage critique. Oh, the drama. The unstoppable force meets the immovable object. It is classic, it is cliché, and it is absolutely delicious. Obsidian Blade snapped his fingers. Flash. A magnesium flare blinded the fog. Paradox smoothie. Kwame didn't blink. He drew. SHIIIING. It wasn't a slash, it was a deletion of space. The air screamed. The shipping container groaned, a hairline fracture appearing between Obsidian Blade's feet. Kriak. The steel floor split perfectly in half. Scene 2. The adults in the room, Helena and Florence. While the boys measured their egos, the real work was being done in the margins. Perspective. Shadowfang, Helena. Helena crouched in the shadows of a crane, 50 meters away. She was not watching the duel. She was watching the perimeter. Her thermal vision painted the fog in shades of blue and gray. She saw the heat signatures of the duelists, Obsidian Blade's erratic, spiking flare, and Kwame's solid burning core. Inefficient, she thought, the Oni in her mind growling at the wasted energy. They fight for dominance. They ignore the hunt. She shifted her gaze lower. There, she saw it, distorted organic movement. 6 heat signatures, burning with a sickly, chemical amber light. Target acquired. The alchemist's guard dogs. She adjusted her grip on her kamas. The duel is a liability. I must intervene. Perspective. Florence. Florence was on the ground level, her sonic rig screaming at her. Readings are flat? Nah, readings are off the charts, she muttered. The audio feed from the duel was drowning out the subtle frequencies, but Florence isolated the tracks. Track 1, Obsidian Blade's manic laughter. Track 2, Samson's tectonic rumbling. Track 3, the squelch. It sounded like wet meat tearing, like bones grinding. That ain't ambient noise, Florence realized. That's a transformation. She looked up at the tilting container. Idiots. They're ringing the dinner bell. She grabbed a bass drop grenade. Time to change the track. Scene 3. The interruption. The container halves were tilting, about to dump the duelists into the void. Drop. Helena landed on the high edge of the steel, wrapped in viscous darkness, her red eyes burning through the fog. Enough, she whispered. The sound cut through the wind like a razor. The objective is external. From below, Florence yelled, "Hold the line! This is the counterbeat." She spiked the chrome sphere. THOOM. A 180 decibel pulse of distorted bass rattled the dock. It didn't break the container. It stabilized it with a cushion of sonic pressure. Obsidian Blade stumbled, clutching his ears. Kwame's perfect stance wavered. "Time out, Chiefs," Florence's amplified voice boomed. "We got bigger problems than your egos." "The supplier is here. Stop this dissonance." Scene IV, the Alliance. Obsidian Blade shook his head, looking down. From the split container below, 6 figures clawed their way out. They were Yakuza, but twisted, veins glowing with amber soulfire, muscles tearing and reforming. "Party crashers!" Obsidian Blade laughed, the tension instantly converting into combat focus. "Dibs on the big one." Kwame looked at the monsters, then at Obsidian Blade. He sheathed his sword with a click. "The steel anchor will not be moved by noise," he grunted. "But it will move for duty." He stepped up beside Obsidian Blade. The ninja and the samurai stood shoulder to shoulder on the broken steel. "Helena, the legs!" Obsidian Blade shouted. "Florence! Drop the beat!" Sage, closing. And just like that, the enemies become allies. Not out of love, but out of necessity. Because nothing bonds 2 men faster than a mutual desire to punch a mutant. Of Scars. ACT1. Change Heroes. Chapter 7. The Asphalt Altar. Location. The Embarcadero right-pointing arrow. Russian Hill right-pointing arrow. Financial District POV. Sage. The Echo of Aegis. The Obsidian Blade / Shadowfang. Sage. The Introduction. Buckle up, darlings. We are leaving the pedestrian tempo of the docks and entering the realm of the suicidal kinetic. San Francisco is not a city designed for driving. It is a city designed for launching. The topography is essentially a roller coaster designed by a drunk architect. And our heroes? They are riding a stolen neon rocket with a screaming hostage strapped to the back. The genre has shifted. We are no longer in a horror movie. We are in a racing anime, and the budget for speed lines just got approved. Scene 1. The launch. Pier 33 to Broadway. The turbo bike screamed, its turbine engine whining like a trapped banshee. The Obsidian Blade hunched over the handlebars, his trench coat snapping in the wind like a broken flag. Behind him, Shadowfang sat in reverse, facing the pursuing chaos, one hand gripping the chassis, the other holding the terrified cultist by the scruff of his tactical vest. The fog, Carl as the locals call it, was thick, acting as a giant softbox that diffused the streetlights into blinding halos. "Sensory check," Blade yelled over the wind. "I smell roasting coffee and... is that burning clutch?" Delicious. Behind them, the static stalkers, the glitching, chemically juiced assassins, were pursuing not on the road, but on the walls. They leaped from building face to building face, their movements defying gravity, closing the distance. Hostiles at 4 o'clock and 8 o'clock. Helena's voice was calm, transmitted directly into Blade's ear via bone conduction. Velocity. Unnatural. They are disregarding friction coefficients. Then let's give them a physics lesson. Blade cranked the throttle. They hit the entrance to the Broadway tunnel. The engine noise amplified, reverberating off the concrete walls, turning the tunnel into a deafening echo chamber. Action. The drift blade didn't slow down for the exit curve. He slammed the bike sideways. The tires shrieked, sliding over the wet asphalt. Drift King protocol. Look at those sparks. That's high-budget animation right there. Scene 2. The vertical antagonist. Russian Hill. They burst out of the tunnel and hit the hills, the vertical antagonist. Blade turned sharply onto Romulo Place. It wasn't just a street, it was a wall with a 37.5% grade and a wonky sideways angle that dropped 20 inches from left to right. Blade! The gradient is excessive, Helena warned, tightening her grip on the cultist. The suspension will not hold. Gravity is just a suggestion. The bike hit the incline, the engine roaring as it fought the 800 pounds of gravity trying to pull them backward. The chassis twisted as the two-axis tilt of the alley tried to roll them into the lower curb. Tactical maneuver, the slot trap A-stalker lunged from a fire escape, aiming to intercept. Blade swerved toward the intersection of Hyde Street, spotting the cable car tracks, specifically the central slot. Helena, anchor us! Helena flared her Oni flow, increasing her density to lock them to the bike. Blade braked hard over the steel rails, causing a violent yaw as the tires skidded on the slick metal. It was a calculated loss of control. The bike whipped around 180 degrees, and the pursuing stalker, unable to adjust its trajectory on the slick cobblestones, slammed face first into the cable car slot with a sickening metallic clank. Tramlined! Blade cackled. Watch your step, glitch boy. Scene 3. The precipice. Interrogation at 60 miles per hour. They crested the hill at Bradford Street, a terrifying 41% grade that looked less like a road and more like a cliff edge. The view was spectacular. For a split second, the fog cleared, revealing the Golden Gate Bridge in the distance, framed perfectly by the steep drop, a panoramic precipice. Blade slammed the brakes, and the bike skidded to a halt inches from the drop, the shock absorbers groaning under the pressure. Helena dangled the cultist over the side. Talk, Helena commanded. The spire. How do we breach the lobby? I can't. The alchemist. He'll consume me. The cultist screamed. Blade revved the engine and the bike lurched forward a single inch. Look at that view, buddy. You can see the whole bay, and in about 3 seconds you're going to see the pavement really, really close up. This is a 41% grade. You won't roll, you'll bounce. The cultist looked at the drop, then at Helena's burning red eyes. The delivery bay. On Sansom Street. There's a blind spot in the thermal sensors for the Soulfire trucks. Use the exhaust vents. Secure, Helena said, pulling him back. Intel acquired. Next stop, Financial District. Blade popped a wheelie, launching the bike down the 41% grade. Scene YV, the concrete jungle. Financial District. The descent was a blur of brake fade and terror. Overheating metal and the acrid scent of the cultists' fear filled the air as they leveled out into the Financial District. The architecture shifted to cold, towering glass canyons of the corporate world. The fog here was dense, creating a noir atmosphere where the skyscraper tops were swallowed by a gray ceiling. Blade weaved through the gridlock of commuter drones and automated taxis, treating the timed lights like slalom gates. Target ahead! Helena pointed. The spire. The neo-brutalist tower loomed, its amber lights pulsing like a heartbeat. Time for the grand entrance, Blade said with cold, sharp focus. Sage, cue the boss music. He drifted the bike into the delivery alley, sliding under the closing security gate with sparks flying from the chassis. Sage, closing, and they stick the landing. The vehicle is totaled, the passenger is traumatized, and the suspension is non-existent. But they are here. The asphalt altar has been crossed. Of Scars. ACT1. Short Change Heroes. Chapter 8. The Weight of the Lie. Location. The Spire. Financial District. Pier 33. The Rearguard. POV. Sage. The Echo of Aegis. The Obsidian Blade. Shadowfang. The Alchemist. Sage. The Introduction. Every party must end, usually with a hangover. But in our line of work, the hangover comes first, and it usually involves a building falling on your head. We are at the finish line of Act 1. The team is fractured. Kwame and Florence are left behind to play janitor with the monsters, while Obsidian Blade and Fang ascend the ivory tower to kill God, or at least, a man with a god complex and a very large syringe. The theme tonight is not victory, it is gravity. The gravity of the situation, the gravity of the building, and the crushing gravity of the truth. Scene 1. The Divergence. Pier 33. Before the ascent, the split. A fracture in the family portrait. The docks were a slaughterhouse of juiced goons, the air thick with the scream of tearing muscle and the smell of ozone. Kwame Daisuke Okoro stood like a seawall against the tide of monsters. He caught a gravity tank fist with his shield, his boots sliding back through the asphalt. He was enjoying the purity of the combat, the Mandingo flow humming in his chest. But the chaos was spiraling. Blade! Kwame roared into the comms. We must contain the breach here. The civilians are exposed. You are abandoning the line. The Obsidian Blade, speeding away on the turbo bike toward the distant spire, didn't look back. Crossing guard, big man. Save the sheep. His voice crackled, manic and dismissive. I'm going to kill the wolf. We don't get paid for crowd control. We get paid for the headshot. Florence was frantically typing on her rig, creating a sonic barrier to herd the civilians. He's gone, Chief. He's chasing the high score. Focus. I found a frequency to jam the stalker's temporal glitch. Cover me. Kwame watched the taillight of the bike vanish into the fog. He mistakes vengeance for duty, he grunted, severing a goon's arm with his sword. This will not end in glory. Scene 2. The veins. Infiltration. The spire. A neo-brutalist tomb of raw concrete and gunmetal steel. Obsidian Blade and Helena drifted the bike into the delivery bay, sliding under the thermal sensors in the blind spot revealed by the terrified cultist. The bay was slick with leaking soulfire amber. Eject! Obsidian Blade yelled. They abandoned the bike as it slammed into a soulfire tanker. Boom. The distraction worked. They ascended to level 50. The walls were stripped away, revealing the massive, throbbing glass pipes carrying the poison. The building pulsed with a low-frequency bass beat. The alchemist's heartbeat. It's alive, Helena whispered, her kamaz drawn. We are in the throat of the beast. Scene 3. The cathedral. The penthouse. Level 100. The penthouse. It was a cathedral of glass and steel, with windows making the world below look like a circuit board. In the center stood the alchemist, a gaunt silhouette in a tech-plagued doctor mask, adjusting the valves of the massive flow core regulator. The chaos you bring is inefficient, the alchemist whispered. He turned, violet light reflecting in his black lenses. You, specifically, a perfect machine corrupted by a childish need for levity. Obsidian Blade stepped forward, the mania already fading, replaced by the cold reality of the room. I'm here to cancel your prescription, Doc. Blade lunged with a Hikari flash, but the alchemist didn't move. He simply activated the gravity aura. THOOM. It wasn't a physical blow. It was despair. The air pressure increased 1,000-fold, buckling Obsidian Blade's knees. He slammed into the floor, his aura imploding, pinned by the weight of his own trauma. Do you feel that? The alchemist asked, walking toward him with a syringe of glowing amber. That is the weight of your own doubt. You are not a hero. You are a broken thing held together by jokes. Obsidian Blade couldn't breathe. The crash was absolute. He had lost. Scene IV. The structural failure. Helena's choice. Shadowfang, Helena, watched from the shadows. She saw Blade broken, and the alchemist preparing the execution. She calculated the odds. Combat probability was 0%, because the alchemist controlled the room's physics. Then, I must change the room, she decided. She didn't aim for the villain. She looked at the support pillars. Structural integrity is a lie, she whispered. She flared her Oni flow and drove her comma deep into the central stress point of the load-bearing column. Only the void is true. Crack. She ripped the pillar out. The neo-brutalist concrete fractured, and the power core regulator sparked. The ceiling groaned. The glass walls shattered. Scene 5. The fall. The floor dropped out. The spire didn't just crumble, it sheared off, twisting into a vortex of concrete, steel, and soulfire, plummeting toward the streets below. Obsidian Blade looked up at the falling ceiling with a cracked smile. Well, that's one way to exit the stage. The alchemist looked at his braking machine, confused for the first time. My equations. Then, the world turned to dust. Scene 6. The ambiguity, the aftermath. At Pier 33, the ground shook. Kwame and Florence stopped fighting and looked toward the city. A massive plume of dust and green fire rose from the financial district. The spire was gone. Obsidian Blade? Florence whispered into her comms. Obsidian Blade? Fang? Talk to me. Static. Kwame sheathed his sword, his face unreadable. The wolf is dead, he rumbled. But the pack has paid the price. Sage. Closing. And there it is, darlings. The tower falls. The bad guy is gone, but so are the good guys. We don't know. The dust is too thick to see the bodies, but one thing is certain. Glory is a story we tell survivors. The dead don't care about capes. End of a CT1, Short Change Heroes.
Saga of Scars, ACT1, Short Change Heroes. The credits. Video signal, unstable/static interference. Audio source, buried under 50 floors of concrete/Hikari channel. Cue aggressive 180 BPM breakcore techno beating against a black screen. The Obsidian Blade. Voiceover distorted, manic, echoing as if from a tin can. Yo! Cut the feed. Who authorized the fade to black? We are not done. I didn't drop a skyscraper on my head just to get cut off by the algorithm. Sage. I know you're there, you purple mist demon. Stop sipping your tea and roll the damn credits. People paid for the Sakuga. Give them the receipt. Saga of Scars, ACT1, Short Change Heroes Asterisk, remixed by Lyrican and Feet. The Sound of Breaking Bones, starring the main character, obviously, Jeremiah the Obsidian Blade Crumpler, also known as the Glowstick of Destiny, the Manic Pixie Nightmare Boy, and the guy who just ate a gravity well. Performance rating, S rank. Did you see that drift? The Scary Lady WHO steals my kills, Shadowfang Helena. Official title, Chief Demolition Architect. Role, brooding, stabbing things, and ignoring physics. Note, you owe me a new bike. And a spine. The Buzzkill Supreme, Samson, Kwame. Official title, The Anchor / Role, standing still aggressively, judging my life choices, and ruining the vibe with gravitas. Fun fact, he is allergic to fun. The Gen Z translator, Florence Lyricanon Baxter. Official title, The Bass Drop. Role, hacking the Gibson, dropping the beat, and making me feel old. The Bad Guys, R.I.P. Bozos. The Alchemist. Status, flat. Very, very flat. Crime, tacky fashion sense, bad science, and trying to turn my trauma into a battery. Review, 0/10. Would not hallucinate again. Nova, the disco ball. Status, knocked out in Chapter 4. Crime, too much lens flare. Paradox smoothie, tasted terrible. The Juiced Goons. Status, liquidated. Crime, skipping leg day, exploding. Production crew, executive producer / professional voyeur. Sage, the echo of Aegis. Role, narrating my pain for her own amusement. Note, I can hear you judging my monologue. Special FX, the Hikari flow, sponsored by my adrenal glands. Providing, blinding lights, manic speed, and questionable decision-making. Stunt coordinator, Gravity, currently forcing me to kiss the pavement. Catering, that one rice ball I ate on the shipping container. It was mediocre. Music cuts out abruptly with the sound of a record scratch. The Obsidian Blade, whispering sudden tonal shift to hollow / crash state. Hey wait, is the building actually on top of us? Aw, crap on a cracker. Helena? You good? Helena? Okay, seriously. If this is a cliffhanger, I demand a raise. Someone get a shovel. ACT2 loading. Green glitches to purple. End transmission.
Call me Saga, I don't know that. Maybe something you don't even see it coming. Off guard and dangerous, looking to make a fool out of us. Somebody gonna know my name. Somebody gonna know just what it means. 'Cause I ain't standing in the line. I ain't standing to give up without a fight. Ain't scared, I ain't afraid. You'd be the same if you knew I'm on a race. So come with fire, come with shots. No matter what, I give it everything I got. Play dirty, play God. No matter what, I give it everything I got. I give it everything I got. No matter what, I give it everything I got. Is it heroic? Let's call it something. Call it anything that don't encourage running. From hard roads to harder times. They say it's better when you look back on the climb. Yeah, I don't need to feel a thing. I just need to know just what it brings. I ain't walking to the line. I'm walking on the path that terrified. Testified, I ain't afraid.